Are live, my friends. It is Wednesday, the 26th day of January, 2011. We're going to be live here for the next 3 hours. Lloyd Chapman is going to be joining us, breaking down the state of our union. He, of course, heads up the Small Business League of the United States with hundreds of thousands of members. I did watch the State of the Union last night. I watched a recording of it. And it was a compendium of lies and disinformation and mind control. But basically the message was, if you don't like what government's doing, you don't believe in America. America's good. America's tough. America's strong. Hope, hope, hope. Basically, without using the word hope, that together we thrive and that we've got this great, bright future ahead if we just basically sit down and shut up. And let's have the theater of the Republicans and the Democrats sitting together. But we've got to have the carbon taxes. Why? You know, America has the cleanest water and the cleanest food, which isn't true. The government puts sodium fluoride in the water and allows all sorts of poisonous stuff to be put in the food, including stuff shipped from China. And so if you're against the carbon taxes, why, you are against progress, and that this is a human right to have this evil carbon dioxide cut when China and India and countless others don't have to. He also made a joke, of course, about the TSA and the naked body scans and the groping, and lied and said that, don't worry, with the new high-speed train across America, you're not going to have to go through checkpoints. When the TSA and Homeland Security have announced that they're starting this and have already started putting checkpoints at train stations, bus stations, and at checkpoints on the highways of America, and they're putting out PSA showing TSA at football games, NFL football games, helping search people. That came out last week. So lie upon lie upon lie. Also, there have been a lot of attacks against former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura. Locally on talk radio, I heard a host attacking him yesterday, and it was a similar attack to what I saw this morning on The View that my producers alerted me to. We have that clip coming up, and they only talk about him for about 2.5 minutes. And again, it's a compendium of disinformation and lies. I mean, either these women are as dumb as a box of rocks or they're liars. I mean, I'll have to stop the tape when we play it every 10 seconds because everything they say is twisted or false. I mean, it's just amazing. And they put a image of him up there and laugh at him and make fun of him. And it's just all about taking serious issues and making a joke out of it. Everything's so funny in this police state that is unfolding. So we're going to be breaking all of that down. And then I want to get into the nanny state today a little bit. Here's a report out of the Austin American-Statesman today. Travis County offers $48,500. Again, Travis County offers $48,500 to bicycle accident victim. And she was out in the county riding with a group of bicyclists. Let me tell you, they act like they own the road. They'll even have a shoulder, and you'll just come by, and there's people in a, you know, on a country road, major highway, just out in the middle of the road. And they act like, again, they have more rights than anybody out there. And there's this hatred of cars by cyclists. I have a bike. I like bike riding. It's just that these people are very arrogant. And they get out there and they train their kids that they own the road. And this woman hit a pothole on a county road shoulder and sued the county. So I guess all those times I flipped off the handlebars riding down neighborhood roads, I should have sued somebody. I guess all those times I fell off my bike. I mean, this is this image and this mindset that the government's got to protect me from everything. And if I go out and bike ride and get hurt, it's the government's fault, and taxpayers are going to have to pay for this. So that's just incredible. We're going to be breaking that down. And also Walmart's targeting 8-year-old girls with anti-aging cream that ties into the same area. Okay, we're going to break down the State of the Union that Barack Obama gave yesterday. There has been a giant new development on the birth certificate issue about a week ago. Last Tuesday, the Honolulu Advertiser published the full text of a transcript interview with the new governor, Mr. Abercrombie. And Abercrombie said that they were unable to find the birth certificate and that this would be a campaign issue in the 2012 election. He, of course, has known Barack Obama since he was about 4 years old. He's been a longtime congressman as well, and friends of the family. And since then, it's been one of the biggest news stories out there with WorldNet Daily, the Drudge Report, and others covering it, that Abercrombie, a month ago, before he'd gotten into office, he was governor-elect, had said that he was going to go out and get that birth certificate and show it to people. And now, again, last week, he said, well, we couldn't find it. In fact, they can't even find out what hospital Barack Obama was born at in Hawaii. They've said 2 different ones now. My mother remembers the name of my doctor at Parkland Hospital in Dallas. How do you forget that? How does Obama not know that? My dad knows the name of my doctor. I have the original signed birth certificate with my footprints on it from the ink, so they can tell which baby's which in case there's a mix-up. They've lied for 3 years. Into the campaign, and now for the last 2 years of Barack Obama in office, saying that we've released the birth certificate. We've released the birth certificate, when they released a receipt of one. Just the automated computerized systems that they print out that you use for routine documentation or for travel. Now Abercrombie has given an interview to well-known reporter Mike Evans. I mean, I've grown up listening to him. He's the Hollywood Reporter. He's on 590 AM every week here in Austin. He's on over 1,000 radio stations in the United States, and he's out of Hawaii. He's known as the Hollywood Reporter Mike Evans, and he's good friends with Governor Abercrombie, going back to, quote, when Abercrombie was a taxi driver. He knew Abercrombie before he got into politics, so they've known each other for decades. And we're going to play a clip of that coming up later when I get into all of this. And he said, yeah, I talked to Abercrombie. This is in his new report. And my old friend, and Abercrombie said, yeah, there is no birth certificate. There's no record, period. There's nothing. There's nothing in the state records. This is a big deal. Now, I don't know if he was born in Kenya or Hawaii, but this claim that, oh, well, his grandparents did a birth announcement, well, you know, in the paper, they weren't imagining that he would ever be president. This is ridiculous. No, people routinely do birth announcements if they're planning to try to fake a birth certificate later, or if they're planning to have their daughter get their grandson back into the country so they can be a U.S. citizen. That's still prized today, but especially in 1961. And you got his grandmother in Kenya saying that he was born there. You got a statue in Kenya saying he was born there. You've got Michelle Sotoro Obama, his wife, saying in multiple speeches that Barack Obama, went back to his home country where he was born of Kenya. She said that in 2007 and 2008 in speeches, and we've played those. But what I can prove 100% is they're covering something up, and he gave up his U.S. citizenship to become an Indonesian citizen, and we have his real name, Barry Soetoro, and there's another fake name as well. And so the issue here is there's a cover-up going on. We need a congressional investigation. And boiling all of this down, Paul Joseph Watson is set here in the next 20 minutes or so to get a report up at prisonplanet.com on this subject. In fact, just a few minutes ago, it wasn't up yet. It's now up. The headline is, Abercrombie shocked at failure to discover Obama birth certificate. And really, when I called Watson this morning about doing this article, I had said go with the headline. I'm not saying his headline's bad, that Abercrombie confirms, or Abercrombie admits that no birth records exist. No birth records. Nothing. Nothing. I mean, hospitals have admission records, old hospitals in this country, going back over 150 years. There are birth records going back over 400 years before this country was even a country, for the first 200 years when it was just colonies. I mean, this is insane, ladies and gentlemen. And if you want to join the FBI, the CIA, the state police, it's on record. You've got to produce the original birth certificate. But he's our president, reportedly, and doesn't have to present it. This is a big deal. But again, the headline is, Abercrombie shocked at failure to discover Obama birth certificate. Revelations of close friend of Hawaiian governor contradict official claim that privacy laws prompted Abercrombie to abandon search. Well, again, The Advertiser newspaper last week did an article, but then it added a transcript of the full interview. So it's really just a footnote where he said, yeah, I looked, it's not there. This is going to be a big issue. Evidence shows he thought he was just talking to the reporter off record after the interview, but the reporter put it all out there and didn't give it a shocking headline. It was just buried in the article. Jerome Corsi found it, did an article. It went super viral. Other people have now written reports about it. And now the Hollywood Reporter, Mike Evans, very respected a reporter, well, we're going to play a clip of that coming up a little bit later in the hour. Now, I want to start getting into the State of the Union here first. And last night, got the kids to bed and everything, and then I went back on YouTube and watched the entire State of the Union. I didn't watch it live. I watched it after it was archived. And to describe it as propaganda, it would be a disservice. It's worse than propaganda. It was mind control. It was re-education. It was brainwashing. It was a complete fraud. Everything he said was an abominable lie, a fraud, a groupthink twisting. And the biggest issue here, and I'm going to go through a lot of these points, but I tried to write notes on it, and I'm not going to go over all 5 pages of them, but the biggest issue was they told members of Congress to sit together. Well, we need separation of powers. We need people to fight within the Democratic and Republican parties against these illegal wars and the Patriot Act and the banking occupation and looting that's going on. We don't need to, quote, fix America to have everybody agree and to cut back the rhetoric. But see, this shows the Republicans and Democrats are circling the wagons against the people and against the Tea Party. 2 years ago, they were somewhat successful in the media running this mass hoax that only Democrats were being heckled at town hall events or meet and greet events. I remember in 2008 and early 2009, Rick Perry would be booed off the stage back when he was pushing Gardasil and NAFTA highways and New World Order stuff. Senator Cornyn would be booed off the stage everywhere he went here in Texas. I saw videos on YouTube and other sites, just Republicans, Democrats, they had an 11% approval rating in Congress, both parties. People were after Democrats, Republicans. But the media spun it as if it was a right-wing revolt. We're able to brand it as you only go and protest if you're a conservative against a liberal. And then they made it left-right and divided the people against each other, where Democrats say, well, I better defend the government's agenda because I don't want to be with those Republicans. Then they branded it as racist. Oh, you don't want government-run health care? Oh, you don't want open borders? Oh, you don't want gun control? You're a racist. So they really tried to divide people along race, along class, along social class warfare. Now, the Republicans and Democrats, we've seen all these Republican leaders say, yes, we've got to tone down the rhetoric. And the big lie, and he brought up the Arizona shooting at the beginning of his speech. In fact, we can play that later. He said, it's great to have Republicans and Democrats. It's great to have debate. It's great to have arguments. But then you got the Arizona shooting. And that has showed us to come together and to stop all this fighting. So the big lie there is, if you don't like what the government's doing, and we are the people, we are the government, if we try to change it and put it back on a constitutional course, we're causing shootings. So it's a dirty thing to be angry and to be vocal and to exercise your First Amendment that created this country. Free speech started this nation. That's why it's the First Amendment. It was violations of free speech and newspapers being shut down that spurred the 1776 movement. One of the biggest factors in all of that. And so that was really the big lie. And Ron Paul, last night before the State of the Union, was on Wolf Blitzer, and Blitzer said, are you going to sit with somebody else? And Paul just starts laughing. He says, this is all just a show. This is all just window dressing. Well, it's more than that. And he's right. It's about blaming the First Amendment for the shooting and implying everybody's got to come together and basically do what Obama says and stop the heated debate. Because, see, they know the American people want liberty, want freedom, want to control the borders, want to end the wars, want to get rid of the TSA. And they know that that's transpartisan and across the political spectrum. So they're piling on to demonize people who object to what's happening, people who speak out, people who get involved. I mean, I was really shocked that they attacked probably 2-1 or even more the First Amendment, then they attacked the Second Amendment after the Tucson tragedy and fiasco. I mean, you really saw that call for the fairness doctrine. You wouldn't hear this radio show if they had that in place. Big calls for the government to control the internet IDs, internet kill switches. They really seized on it with that hoax that it was the fault of Tea Partiers, Ron Paul, Alex Jones, the list goes on and on. Now that that kind of failed, they're saying, okay, it's all of our faults. That's what Obama said at the Tucson event. Let's just love each other. And then the other big lie they introduced, that if you don't agree with the carbon taxes and all the things he called for last night, you don't believe in America. He said, if you're not for that, why, you don't believe America's still great. So see, you're not just somebody causing shootings, you don't like America. You're not positive. You don't believe in America if you actually point out that this is the state of the disunion, the state of the globalist breaking up our country, getting rid of our Bill of Rights and Constitution. So it was just a giant fraud to create some type of collective guilt onto the American people that we're hurting America because we're angry. So the big message is, if you don't like what the government's doing and all the same policies not just being continued but expanded, you don't like America. And he said that over and over again. America's strong. America's good. Yeah, we've had some knocks, but we need to be positive. We need to come together under the globalist leadership that is dissolving what was a free and prosperous republic. And you've got to sit together, and you've got to lower the rhetoric. Oh, yeah, it's great to have parties. It's great to argue with each other, but then you get a shooting like Arizona, and then we got to come together. It lets us know. I mean, he literally implied that America was in trouble because we're angry. No, people are angry because we're losing our liberties, our freedoms, our dollars being devalued. The states across the board are going bankrupt and trying to erect all these new taxes and cutting benefits when that is a very small part of the equation compared to the offshore banking cartels' debt in derivatives that we've signed on to. We've had multiple economists on to break this down. You could get rid of all entitlements, Social Security, welfare, everything, the entire Defense Department. We have signed on to too big to fail, the $1,000+ trillion created globally by the private central banks. And that's how they've held us hostage. They are holding us hostage in a big way. They're saying, oh, the global economy is unstable. Keep giving us more money. What did Davos call for, the big globalist kind of public Bilderberg confab? What did they call for just yesterday? Same thing they called for, the Federal Reserve called for last week. $100 trillion. In fact, let's search engine that. Davos calls for $100 trillion in additional liquidity. And that means $100 trillion to them, and then they don't just fractional reserve leverage it 10-1 or 8-1, as was the old metric. It's unlimited, and they create new derivatives and manipulate markets. With $100 trillion under the old fractional reserve banking system, that is a quadrillion, or 1,000 trillion. They're asking for 1,000 trillion. When they ask for 100 trillion in new liquidity, headline, if you want to search it, Davos calls for 100 trillion, and that'll pull it up. 100 trillion into the banks. Now, what did Ron Paul say? What did Ron Paul do? He hit the nail on the head when they said, well, aren't you going to sit together? And, I mean, he just pointed out how this is ridiculous theater. U.S. budget gap to widen to $1.5 trillion in 2011 on tax measures, CBO says. Yeah, here's Obama saying he's going to balance the budget, ban earmarks, and he's tripled the size of government his first year and a half in office, spent more money than all presidents before him combined. But that's because we're coming to the end of this hyperinflation system, and once you reach that very tail end, you have more acceleration of debt and devaluation than you had in the previous 100 years. That's how these systems always basically work. But now we have Davos calling for 100 trillion in increased, quote, liquidity or funds to the banks. Now, when we get back, I'm going to continue with the State of the Union and the TSA police state tie-in. There's the president trying to prop up the TSA. Why is it so important to them? Why is The View and so many other TV shows attacking Jesse Ventura for his courage in suing Homeland Security? We'll break it all down on the other side. Stay with us. I want to open the phones up specifically for listeners to give us your take on the State of the Union. Here is this globalist teleprompter reading puppet, Barack Hussein Obama, real name Barry Soetoro, and bombshell info on his missing birth certificate out of Hawaii coming up in a little while. I want to get your take on what you got from the choreographed show or campaign stunt that was launched last night by Barry Soetoro. The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. Now, once you get into a 1.5 quadrillion, and that's an old number. Again, the Washington Post last year said 600 and change. But whether it's 600 trillion or 1.5 quadrillion, 1,500 trillion, as many economists have reported here on this show of derivatives, it is a black hole that is impossible to pay back. And by being held hostage by the bankers who hold this over our head and threaten total bankruptcy if we don't keep giving into them, we just dig the hole, the bottomless pit, that much deeper. But here's the London Telegraph. You can also pull up last week the Federal Reserve, the Bank of England calling for it. World needs 100 trillion more credit or liquidity, says World Economic Forum. Now, remember, when they say that, that means 0% interest via the dollar, the yen, the yuan, the euro, the SDRs to the private central banks, who then loan it out for 5, 8, 10, 12, 15, some people's credit cards up to 30%. That's been the credit card reform. So they loan you made-up digital numbers for massive interest. Then the interest compounds. Then nations, not just companies, individuals, lose their credit rating, as California and many other states are doing, as Greece and Ireland are now having their credit rating downgraded. And then the countries aren't paying 10, 12, 15%, just like an individual. They're paying 25, 30%, like Argentina, like some of the examples I use, like Nigeria. I mean, they know exactly what they are doing. This is a stated trap. In 2002, the IMF World Bank documents, thousands of pages, got leaked to BBC. We had Greg Palast on. We've been warning people for 9 years. Red alert. This is their plan. I mean, their plans fell into our hands. People risk their lives inside of there to warn you. Okay, people say, well, how do you know all this? It's stated. I mean, we've known this is coming. We knew when they got rid of Glass-Steagall in '99. I had George Humphrey, economist, on. I had many other economists in studio telling you what was going to happen. So now they're saying this week at Davos, with all these criminal globalists meeting, George Soros and others, they're saying, oh, and he's been convicted in foreign countries, just like Henry Kissinger's been convicted. They're saying that we've got to give them $100 trillion backed up by taxpayers of the world. Now, they then will loan it back to your government, your corporation, your individual credit card, whatever. They will loan it back, and through fractional reserve banking, they'll be able to loan out 1,000 trillion under the old $1 in the bank. Banks could loan out $10. That's the U.S. model. England, it was one pound in the bank. They could loan out 8 pounds. It varies between 8 to 10, 8 to 10 times. Since '99, globally, that was just gotten rid of. They leverage it 10 to 1, then they sell derivatives on that, then they sell derivatives on that, and they layer these structured frauds on top of each other, and at the end of the day, it destroys society, destroys your pension, destroys your retirement. Their answer will then be, and we're seeing this in other countries, so we know how they do it, to federalize all the pension funds in the name of protecting them so that they don't lose all value, and now you're under full government control. It's self-borrowing money from the central banks that engage in the fraud to begin with. This is such a big deal. Now, going back to the State of the Union, I want to play a clip of Barack Obama making a joke about the TSA. And as soon as I saw this last night, I caught the big lie. Everybody's mad at him, and we have 2 great articles at Infowars.com by Aaron Dykes and Kurt Nimmo. They both wrote on it. about how he made fun of the sexual molestation. But that's only one layer. The big issue is that it's a lie. See if you can catch the big, fat lie. I know Jaron caught it this morning when I came and he brought it up. See if you can catch the blaring, giant lie in your face. Here's Barack Obama last night.
Within 25 years, our goal is to give 80% of Americans access to high-speed rail.
Built by the Chinese, by the way.
This could allow you to go places in half the time it takes to travel by car. For some trips, it will be faster than flying, without the pat down.
Oh, it's so funny.
As we speak, routes in California and the Midwest are already underway.
By the Chinese. Because we buy toasters and DVD players and Blu-ray disc, and they take the money and actually invest it in infrastructure. And, by the way, some of these trains go 300 miles an hour, so one of the slower bullet trains at over 200 would be basically 3 times the speed of a car. But our rail lines are so ancient and so rotten that the systems they're building are limited lines, and basically what you just heard was another lie. But the big lie, did you catch it? You're not going to be given pat-downs at the train stations. Really, I saw Governor Ridge 8 years ago say it on C-SPAN, and now they've, for at least 5 years, have had Viper teams at train stations in Florida, New York, Texas. They're searching people. They're showing up at Greyhound bus stations with TSA searching people. TSA's announcing that they will be inside football games. They're training State Guard to search people going back at least 6 years ago. I have that in my 2005 film. 911 Rise of the Police State. I mean, I show the news articles. I show photos of them doing it, searching 3-year-olds in their Hello Kitty bag, literally. That's in the film. And they've announced they're going to federalize your local police and have them do TSA-type operations, and private goons and metal detectors and body scanners at malls, and hundreds of federal and state courthouses from Miami to Denver are already getting them. But he said, don't worry, there won't be any pat-down. So, and again, why was that written into his highly choreographed speech? Because they know that if we ever get together, if we ever have victory on an issue, if we ever prove the TSA is a federal power grab and a fraud, if we ever come together and get angry and have a victory against their agenda, which they're always pushing, if we ever turn them back anywhere, like the SPP, Napa superhighways, in deep trouble, almost defeated. But it's like a hydra. It's got many heads coming back. We're defeating them on so many other fronts. We're defeating their gun-grabbing legislation. The tide's been turned more and more at the state level against abortion. The public's waking up to that. So we're winning on many fronts, so they're trying to bum rush us and get everything in place and overwhelm us with classically Orwellian things to just basically break our will and acclimate us. So they're now having to respond in a State of the Union to make it a joke. And that's their tactic. I listen to local talk radio. I listen to national talk radio. And most of these people aren't controlled. They just know to follow what the big talking heads on national television say. And it's make a joke about them sticking their hands down your wife's pants. Make a joke about them taking a woman's bra off in front of people. Make a joke. Oh, but you notice they just lost that lawsuit. And they lost the one about filming in the airport in Seattle. Oh, it's just all funny. And I listened to national radio and local radio last night. I watched TV some last night and this morning. And all over the place, it was a big joke. They'd show a photo of Jesse Ventura with his Thomas Jefferson's, Benjamin Franklin-style haircut and make fun of him and laugh and laugh and laugh. Not about the issue, but laugh at him. And I heard another local talk show host say, you know, how dare him say that in the suit that this is sexual abuse. Well, the law under state and federal law says if someone puts, and we've had district attorneys on the show, the district attorney out in the county that San Francisco is based in, saying that he has officers, deputies in that airport, and if they touch you through the pants on your genitals, it's a misdemeanor. If they go in the pants, it's a felony. So it isn't something that Whoopi Goldberg and all the rest of these disheveled, crusty crones are laughing at. It's not just that. It's that they're making a huge joke out of it. And other talk show hosts are making jokes out of Ventura, saying it violates my Fourth Amendment, it violates my dignity, it constitutes sexual assault, the touching, the squeezing, the gripping, the groping. And it's admitted by hundreds of reporters who've had it done, where they put so much pressure on your genitals, it hurts men. And almost women feel like they're going to be lifted up off the ground. But see, they just make a big joke out of this whole thing. The toll-free number to join us, again, is 800-259-9231. Oh, I've just been told by the network that we're going to be taking calls on our end. They're having a phone system issue up at the network. So let me give you our number here. It's 877-789-ALEX, 877-789-ALEX on your take on the TSA and what's happening with Ventura and on the State of the Union, since Obama brought that into the State of the Union discussion. But going back to this, there is this concerted effort that Jesse Ventura is a leader. He sticks his head up above the ground. You know, he's the meerkat that's got the nerve to, you know, challenge the hyena coming up towards the troop. And the others are hopping around cowardly, saying, how dare him stand up? How dare him get involved? You know, we think he's goofy looking. He's not being sexually assaulted. You know, why doesn't he like being bathed in a radiation scanner? Why doesn't he like every time he flies being pulled out and having people put their hands all over him and on his genitals and up in his rear end? I mean, that's what he talked about on the show. They actually go up in the crack between your buttocks. This is outrageous. And it's all a big joke. Ha, 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 let them eat cake. Look at them. This governor doesn't like people sticking their hands in his pants or squeezing his genitals. What a weirdo. I've been with Ventura. When they pull him out and there's a crowd gathers around to watch Jesse Ventura being searched, and he's more upset by old people going, why are you doing that to an old lady in a wheelchair? She's not a threat. You know, what are you doing this to me? This is East Germany, Alex. And I'm standing 10 feet away. This is why I want to move to Mexico permanent. I don't like living in East Germany. I can't believe my country's gone. You know, hurry up, get it done. And then they just take their time smiling. Oh, let me. See, we've gone from land of the free, home of the brave to where low-wage people who aren't even sworn peace officers. A sworn peace officer has to have an emergency situation or a warrant to stick their hands on your genitals. But they're just doing this out in the open. If the police are going to search you, they've got to take you to the jail and then find a same-sex person who's been trained to do it. I mean, this is prisoner training. If you show up to serve a 5-year stint in a medium or maximum security prison, you know, or 10-year stint, this is what they're going to do to you. Okay, they're going to stick their hands down your pants. This is prisoner training, period. Now, here is the incredible Whoopi Goldberg, The View piece with all of these women, liberal and conservative, piling in against Ventura. Now, if you're a radio listener, you'll miss the faces and you'll hear the laughing. They put an image up of him as a wrestler, and they say, what's his problem? You know? Why doesn't he like being touched? And then another woman on the show, another dingbat, says, there is no search that's too much. There is no such thing as an unreasonable search. And they just laugh and laugh and laugh. And they say, just look at this photo of him. And they put a photo up of him, you know, with his hair blowing or whatever in the wind. And they laugh at that. Ah, 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 hoping you're weak-minded. This is a tactic, and just laugh. Oh, the government's sticking their hands down my pants. Oh, they're listening to my phone without warrants. Oh, they're tracking my bank account and taking money out of it with no due process. Oh, they're taking all my freedoms. Oh, they're wanting to put me in a radiation scanner when a woman reportedly, according to Haaretz, looks like died when it set off her pacemaker. She told them I got a pacemaker. They put her through it and she died. That's mainline Israeli news. It's so funny. Ah, ha, ha, ha. And what did I hear on local radio yesterday? I tell you, this Ventura, is he just doing this for attention? A lot of people are going to get mad, him calling this molestation. Well, really, if somebody comes and grabs your genitals and you've got to fly 3 times a week, both ways, so that's 6 times a week when he does the show, and I've flown with him, and you've got to stand there in front of a bunch of people singled out because you got a prosthetic hip, you've got an artificial titanium hip, and you've got to have all this done to you, and then let me tell you, he's upset about it. He's angry when I'm in the taxi cab with him. He's talking about it all the time. Alex, I'm done. I'm going to have to quit. They've ruined me. I can't do this anymore. I got to get out of here. You know, oh, see, I know it's real for Ventura. He's a real person that understands this is tyranny. But their answer to him is just to laugh at him. Now, I'm going to stop this a few times, or maybe I should just write notes during it, but there's so many pieces of disinfo. Oh, and they also say, well, look at just what happened in Russia. That happened outside the security area. And what are they now calling for? Police and checkpoints on the road coming into airports. And then there'll be bombings there. And then it'll be out on the highway coming into the airport. Then there'll be bombings there. I mean, we just have random checkpoints everywhere to stop bombers? Just like this woman with Travis County getting a $48,000 settlement because of a pothole on a country road when she's on the shoulder on her 10-speed bike. The government should have protected me from a pothole. Hey, you go riding bikes around over the years, there's a good chance you're going to get hurt. It's part of living. You go skiing. You going to sue Colorado if you're skiing and fall and break your leg? I've gotten hurt snow skiing. I've gotten hurt water skiing. Am I going to sue Travis County if I bust my lip or twist an ankle or something slaloming? Or if I'm slaloming so they're putting images up of him and laughing at him. And several of the women look disheveled on the program like they're homeless people. I'm not attacking homeless people. And I'm not even attacking people on their looks, but they're making fun of how he supposedly looks. And then she says, you only get the pat-down if you refuse the scan. That's not true. They threaten you and say, if you don't do the scan, we'll do a pat-down. They do scans and pat-downs. I've watched it. And they say they plan to end up doing pat-downs as they phase it in for everyone. So they always say, oh, it's just a little bit of you. This is all psychological warfare. Off teleprompters, all of it is scripted, and everything they're saying is not true. So I want to tell all of the women on that show, you're like something out of a medieval pillory where they've got somebody in the stocks throwing rotten cabbages and tomatoes at them and laughing. I mean, they're turning it into a sport, laughing at a real man, somebody who cares about freedom, somebody who's standing up for liberty, somebody who's putting their name on the document, somebody who's getting a federal lawsuit with a very dangerous agency, somebody who's had a TV show censored. And what's your answer? Your answer is just to sit there and laugh at him. Laugh at him. Because he doesn't want people sticking their hands down his pants. We'll be right back. By the way, videos are pouring in by 20, 30 a day. Hundreds of flyers a day. Different variants of the V for Victory or R for Resistance or whatever you choose. And those are separately two different events. The V for Victory is just an operation we're running, but you can incorporate that into the Answer to 1984 or 1776 contest. That's $10,000. $7,000 for first place, $2,000 for second, $1,000 for third place. You've got a month to produce those videos, just exposing the police state takeover grid, the DHS takeover grid, countering their contest to get citizens to make videos that they're now airing on TV and putting on the web. So that's what's going on there. Big developments. Great job, everybody. I will spend some time on that today, and we're posting the incredible videos that are coming in as we speak at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Look, I've already said what I can say about this attack on Ventura. It's just to claim that, oh, he says it's molestation. I've heard that on radio and on television. You know, it's ridiculous. Really? So somebody, if you're a man and somebody wants to grab your genitals, that's okay, women? It's sexual assault survivors, mainly women, that are filing lawsuits and freaking out over this. I thought you were a bunch of liberal women. No, you're a bunch of thugs promoting the police state and attacking somebody valiantly standing up for all of our liberties. You know, the Nazis just asked for your papers. Now the government sticks their hands down your pants. We got federal grants nationwide to take warrantless blood checkpoints, setting up checkpoints where they take your blood warrantlessly. It's so funny. So they take something really serious, they know serious, and they make it a big joke. He says he's being inappropriately touched. And the other lady, well, these people are so professional at the TSA. Oh, they're so professional. When my grandmother's on crutches, you know, yelling and screaming and telling her to hurry up. Or if you're on your cell phone after you go through screaming at you to turn it off when you're trying to find out about your flight. Or when they're dumping out all your goods on the table. Or when the TSA goes crazy and tries to pick up women. Or tries to plant drugs on them and says, but if you have sex with me, I won't call the police on you. But I didn't put that cocaine in there. And TSA people going crazy and stripping down naked and saying, I'm God, I'm God. Oh, you didn't hear about that? Or all the TSA people that have been caught being pedophiles or sex offenders. Every screwball nut in the country is going and getting a TSA job. And the good people that won't go along with this, they're all being fired, and they're building this army of oppression. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There you have them making fun of Jesse Ventura, making fun of you and trying to ridicule the American people standing up and saying we don't want this, and saying, oh, look, this would have saved them in Russia if they'd have had this. They did have the checkpoints. They did have the scanners. This was outside of the scanners. So now, checkpoints on the road coming in. There'll be a bombing on that. You got to have checkpoints on the highway out past that. Don't you see this system is meant to take over society? We'll be back with your phone calls and Obama's birth certificate. All right, we're taking your phone calls and getting a response to the State of the Union by the globalist who's openly sworn to bring in world government and end our sovereignty. You heard him call for the carbon taxes and say we got the cleanest air, the cleanest water. Really, the government adds poison to the water via fluoride. If you don't get behind their agenda and sit down and shut up, why, you're going to cause another shooting. I mean, it was just incredible, the message that everybody's got to sit together and no one can argue. We need to shut up. That's not what a free society looks like. We're going to take your phone calls, and then coming up, the biggest development ever in Obama's birth certificate. It's now a near certainty that he was born in Kenya, and it's blown up in the governor's face politically, Abercrombie, that he said that he was going to get the birth certificate. As you know, a week ago, he said, well, I had trouble finding it, and it'll be a campaign issue. Now he's told a longtime friend and a very well-known reporter that indeed they can't find it. They can find nothing. This is a huge development. It's up at prisonplanet.com in an article by Paul Joseph Watson today with the audio of the reporter talking about his longtime, decades and decades-long friend, the governor, telling him this just in the last week. Don, Matt, Rusty, John, Jim, Matt, Martina, Rick, Mega News Reader, Mike, Leo, Ridge Runner. We're going to at least get to your calls before I cover that. Then we have another guest joining us, getting into the State of the Union. Don in California, you're on the air. Thanks for holding.
Hey, thanks, Alex. You know, I haven't heard you on the radio for 4 years. I moved out to L.A. here, and I can't get you. Not even online. I'm having trouble with that. And I don't know if you've covered this. I wanted to alert you to a serious situation, I think. I know it's a little bit off subject, but... you know, the same group that bought the World Trade Center complex 2 months before 9/11
has bought the Sears Tower, Larry Silverstein, and now they're trying to put their man Rahm Emanuel in Chicago.
Oh, okay. See, you're fully aware of it. Good. I'm glad you connected the dots to that.
Yeah, we covered it when he bought it 3 years ago.
Yeah, they said they announced they're going to paint it silver too, which is of course how nano explosives technology is applied. So they could easily stage another attack there and then blame it on the Iranians or whoever they want to.
You know, my mom, we took the kids, you know, on a trip this weekend, and she talked about in her gut, she thinks they're going to probably blow up the no longer the Sears Tower. Just when you put all the pieces together, I think you're on to something. Speaking of Rahm Emanuel, I'm glad you brought that up. Hold on, let me find it. Hold on just a second. Rahm Emanuel is famous for sending dead fish to people. That's a Sicilian message, even though he's not Sicilian, of you will sleep with the fishes. He's famous, of course, in front of the press, stabbing the table with a knife when he reads the names of political enemies and saying, dead, dead, dead. Our office, sent to our address, was sent by the Rahm Emanuel for mayor campaign. You know, we've been very critical of his mafia connections as of late, been focusing on that. My office was sent a letter from Rahm Emanuel thanking us for his support, for our support, and giving us a Rahm for mayor bumper sticker from Chicago. And I wonder if this is a joke by somebody in his office or if it's something more. Is this a little Chicagoland message? What do you think, Don?
I had no idea. He's a very strange character. His father was an Erdogan terrorist, though. And he's a very mean person. You know, everybody knows that. Yeah,
we've been covering that air gun situation for 3 years, and just had Wayne Madsen on about it just a few days ago on Friday covering it. But absolutely, here's the Rahm Emanuel letter to me, thanking me for my support. Never supported him. Maybe somebody made a contribution or something as a joke in my name. I don't know why I got this. I hope it's not a veiled threat, but he's the type of guy that does it. Rahm for mayor. And I've got this right here. I really appreciate your call. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Wonder what that means. Here's another headline out of Wired. Even DHS is freaked out by spy drones over America and spy blimps. In fact, there was another article just yesterday. It was in my stack after I got off air about they have bought the drone. Now we have the photo. We covered it a few weeks ago. In Salt Lake, police have launched their new blimp. 20 years ago, before I was even on air, I was watching Alexander Haig with some bizarre cable show he had that aired in Austin, admitting that he was behind a company to put giant spy blimps above 100,000 feet in the air with face-scanning cameras, license plate readers, you name it. That was when I first learned about that. Then about 10 years ago, right before 9/11, FEMA started announcing they were testing giant blimps over cities. You got to use a telescope to see them. When folks started seeing these in the last 6-7 years, the news would not say, oh, it's a Homeland Security blimp. They would say, is that an alien spacecraft? I've got ABC News aiming cameras at it in Dallas and in Salt Lake City, Utah, with propellers on them and saying, is it a flying saucer? Not saying, look, it's a blimp. See, because your government wouldn't spy on you. It has to be aliens. And then I've been made fun of everywhere for saying there's government blimps, even though they're all admitted. But here's an article dealing with it. Even DHS is freaked out by spy drones over America. Police departments around the country are warming up to unmanned spy planes, but don't expect the police department or the Homeland Security Department to catch drone fever anytime soon. Again, police departments around the country are warming up to unmanned spy planes, but don't expect the Department of Homeland Security to catch drone fever anytime soon. It's too controversial for an agency already getting hammered for naked scanners and junk touching. Sure, DHS flies some predators along the U.S.-Mexican border, but a broader deployment above the majority of American skies to stop terror attacks, not likely. See, either this writer, Spencer Ackerman, is ignorant or they're lying to you because you could just search Homeland Security launches surveillance blimps and drones, and you can see one in an MSNBC article from 2004 above D.C. being launched. And they're unmanned. They've got their power source, solar panels all over the top skin. So during the day, they get the power. There's cameras, face scanners, infrared scanners. It's a lot cheaper than launching satellites into orbit. And then it can fly around looking through the clouds and surveilling you. But here's one dealing with Utah. And Utah pops up over and over again. It's one of the main testing grounds of these from our research. It says Ogden, Utah buys its police a blimp. And it is a gigantic sucker, very large. It's got the cameras on it and all the other goodies. It is, of course, solar-powered, and it just flies around watching you. So there you go. And Homeland Security says, oh, they're not involved in this. Baloney. They're paying for it all with grants. And it has nothing to do with terrorists or open borders. It's about surveilling you on the ground. And it's about the Defense Department getting all these contracts, militarizing the country. Let's talk to Matt in Minnesota. Matt, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hey, Alex, thanks for taking my call. Quick question for you and then a comment about a TV show I wanted to bring to your attention. Yeah, you know, I was watching CNN when Neil Abercrombie came on first about a month ago and said he's going to look for the document. I kind of joked to my little brother. I said, I bet they don't find it. And I was pretty surprised that they didn't even find documentation that it existed or any documentation there.
No, this is a huge deal. And for those that don't know, that just joined us, that's the new governor, former congressman, the governor of Hawaii, best buddies with a major reporter who has now come out and confirmed that Abercrombie told him there's no records, period. That reporter, of course, is Mike Evans, syndicated broadcaster. He does the Hollywood Reporter news bite, and he reported to KQRS-FM that everything that we saw in the Honolulu Advertiser was true, and I'm going to play this coming up, and that indeed they can find nothing of his birth in Hawaii.
Yeah, the KQRS, that's a local Minnesota FM channel here, too. You know, I think I caught this on you guys' webs on InfoWars or Prison Planet about a year ago. It's my understanding that Arizona, the state of Arizona, passed legislation about a year ago that specifically states a presidential candidate must provide proof of citizenship in order to be an
They introduced it last year. It didn't pass. It passed one house. It's now been reintroduced again.
Okay, great. And, you know, I think other states should definitely, use that idea. And quick comment, this Sunday night, speaking of the Viper squads and the police state, this Sunday night on the National Geographic Channel, there's a new show airing called Counter Terror NYC, and it looks like a total glorification of the NYC police state. You know, guys with SMGs and rifles and subways on the train.
On the roads, checkpoints in the subway, and then that's used as a beta rollout. They now admit with Daryl Gates in the 60s and 70s that the CIA and Pentagon funded shows like SWAT so that all cops had to get into it, and this is all a predictive programming rollout of a total occupation of the U.S., and our new expanded prison economy is basically all of us being prisoners and government taking blood at checkpoints without warrants, sticking their hands down your pants, and if you complain, they'll have The View just sit up there and laugh at you.
Yeah, that's a good point. But so that's National Geographic. Check out the website. I mean, when you go to the website and just look at it, it's just glorification of police state. It's kind of sad. But yeah, you're right. It's brainwashing and the totalitarian tiptoe.
I hear you, and I appreciate your call, man. I remember about 12 years ago seeing an episode of Inside the LAPD. And it was on Discovery Channel, if I remember correctly. I actually got the tape, played it on air at the time, caused quite a sensation when we pointed it out. But when it aired in plain view, nobody got upset. It took somebody who knows what's going on to get it and then play it and point it out, and people got very upset. And the neighbors hadn't seen their neighbor in 5 days. They go knock on the door. They call the police. When the police see an NRA sticker on the guy's Bronco, they freak out. They call the SWAT team, and they say, look at this scum. They actually say, look at this scum. He's NRA, and he had a veteran sticker, too. And I was like, wow, that's weird. Look at this scum. And they go in and make fun of his dead body. They make fun of the stink. He has died of a heart attack. They never said he just died, natural causes. And then the cops start stealing all his guns, and they go, look at this arsenal. It looked like about 15 guns, legal guns. And they go, I'm going to keep this one. I want that one. And then they went outside and said, yeah, doesn't get any worse than this, NRA. Folks, if you think I'm joking, that really happened. Just like if I tell you I have newscasts saying mercury's good for your children. Of course, they're talking about injectable mercury into the blood is actually not good for your children and causes brain damage. Actually, as a microscopic amount trace element, it is in plants, it is in fish. You do need a little bit of it. But when they spin things and say, oh, the shot's got, as much mercury as a tuna fish sandwich, that's different. I've had medical doctors in studio talk about this and agree with me. That's bound in to the other elements that are in the food, and almost all of it passes through you. And tiny amounts are needed. Like the Japanese eat tons of mercury fish. They live the longest in the world on average. So again, there's always a little truth in what they say. It's really sick, but pumping it into a little bitty baby over and over again past the blood-brain barrier, through the stomach is a different thing for very small, minute amounts tied with other trace elements and rare earth minerals that are needed in overall metabolic use of the other mainline minerals, vitamins, and nutrients. Okay, let's go to John in West Virginia. John, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, I watched the State of the Union, and at the end I watched a little bit of the talking heads coming up and telling you what he said. And I remember they said he had a Reagan moment, and I had a Reagan moment just then, because I remember Reagan came out and said that the government was too big and it was too much regulation and everything, and we got to stop this. And basically what he did was he expanded it all. And then
and by Reagan moment, they're trying to imprint us like baby ducks to this fake narrative that, oh, he's been reborn, and the Republicans are sitting with him, and we'll fix America if we all just sit down and shut up on this train and all hold hands and sing, and as the train goes off the cliff. Don't get upset and decelerate. No, just hold hands. And you know what, though? This is amazing, John. You actually called in on the subject I asked for. This is bizarre, John. Go ahead.
Obama said, that this is the land of opportunity, and you can use your abilities to get ahead. And in effect, the federal government his administration and all the administrations in the past have been putting it so that, your only opportunity is to go work for some big corporation and let them get the money from any great innovations you come up with. And, it's like the regulators just keep you from doing anything.
Well, I agree with you, but one of the other issues is Boehner. It isn't that when a man cries it's bad, because sometimes I'll be talking about children being murdered or the tyranny that's taking place, and I think about my own family and their future, and I'll get emotional and get a little teary-eyed, maybe once every 2 or 3 months. But Boehner starts crying when people talk about him and his struggles. When they're talking about Iraq debt or whatever, he doesn't cry. He cries when they're talking about him. And, I mean, Boehner just comes off, every time I see him, he's crying. I mean, this guy, I think it's a sign of mental illness. I mean, I have to be sorry. I'm sorry. It's one thing if you cry every once in a while, or get a tear in your eye when you, think about others being hurt. But whenever he talks about himself and how he can't believe all the power he's got, he's on such an incredible power trip, he starts crying with joy. And remember, he's an acolyte. He's a minion, a protege of Newt Gingrich. And so what does that tell you? What else did you think about him opening the speech of, it's good to have parties and people arguing with each other, but we did have that shooting? I mean, he was saying right there, see, you're causing the shootings. And then he went on, America's great, and get behind me or you don't believe it is. It was like he was saying he's America. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah, and that was the theme throughout his whole speech. It was like it even ended, saying, we got to be, together to follow me, and over the hill we're gonna find, milk and honey. But in the meantime, he's got the government, is just growing and growing and growing and taking us all over.
Well said. And remember what he did 3 years ago in the campaign. Hope and change, and everything's going to be fixed, and he's going to kick out Wall Street. People are like, thank you, President. I'll have to pay my car payment or house payment. Everything's fixed. He's just running the same scam. Okay, let's go right back to your phone calls. Hopefully, you're getting your view on the State of the Union by the globalist traitor up there trying to get rid of our sovereignty. Let's talk. In fact, he talked about that. We got to work with the world. We got to do all of this. What's he say when he's overseas? All nations have a responsibility to the New World Order. Let's go ahead and talk to Rusty in Texas. Rusty, you're on the air.
Hey, Alex. How you doing?
Good.
Great. Thanks for having me on. Listen, just about the State of the Union, all I wanted to say was just that, he didn't really do anything but just restate a bunch of things that he stated back when he was trying to become president, if I'm not mistaken.
No, he said almost exactly the same thing, except not the hope and change. He just said things are going to get better if you just don't fight with each other and don't get angry and basically do what we tell you.
Right. Although I am a little bit surprised that he didn't mention anything about trying to take our guns away from us.
Yeah, Gibbs said that he was going to bring that up, so I guess Gibbs is wrong.
Well,
but that shows that they know they can't get away with this anymore because people are waking up.
Yeah, things are definitely starting to, I think, crumble around them, which is why I feel like they're, really starting to push things on us. It's coming out, they want to, well, I won't go into all that. I'm save you a lot of time, but, I just wanted to, say that really, he didn't say anything other than anything that I've already heard, and, I wasn't really much surprised.
I wasn't either, Rusty. Good to hear from you. The scary thing is how a lot of the Republican leadership is agreeing, yeah, we got to work together. Yeah, we got to lower the rhetoric because they're worried about the more truly libertarian parts of the Tea Party kicking the rhinos out of office, as we've seen started to happen. So you've really got the Democrats and Republicans to a great extent circling the wagons against the people. The Republicans are scoring some symbolic points like, oh, they repealed government health care in the House, knowing full well that they didn't have it in the Senate. Why don't they start impeachment hearings for unconstitutional activity? Why don't they go after Obama for having all these Goldman Sachs people who are getting bailout money? Well, then they'd have to go after Bush. So, see, they don't want to do that. They don't want to go after him for real issues. Let's talk to Jim in Texas. Jim, you're on the air.
Thanks for letting me express my opinion, Alex.
Yeah, thanks for calling, Jim. What's on your mind?
Well, I kind of you took my thunder away there. I was going to say that's what I got from this speech mostly was a dropping of the facade of the right-left paradigm, and we're seeing, basically them coming out and saying, okay, now we're unified, which is what your listeners have known for a long time, that it's a fraud. The right-left paradigm is just it's a puppet show. Secondly, Alex, I'd like to suggest, I love your show, listen to it every day. To suggest maybe that you, or if you didn't feel comfortable, maybe you could get Lindsey Williams or somebody else to do a daily prayer, because this is really a spiritual battle, and at its core, we're talking about a satanic cult that these people are, and I think you would agree with that statement, as wacky as it may sound.
Well, even if you're an atheist and don't believe in a physical Satan, I mean, killing 1 million Iraqis, putting sodium fluoride in the water, naked body scanning, everything that's happening is devilish by every archetypal yardstick. So, I mean, these people act and behave like sadomasochistic psychopaths, and they are. And we know government throughout history gives us Hitlers and Maos and Stalins, and it's happening again by this political ruling class that runs through major political parties globally who are in there in control of the tax money, giving it to their corporate bosses that fund them. But absolutely, I know God's real. I don't, quote, believe in God. I know there's a creator, and I have a personal relationship with that creator, and I love liberty and life, and that's the side I choose, is life and the truth. Doesn't mean I'm perfect or on some high horse either. But I think people should privately pray every day, and even if you don't believe in God, try to sit down and just quietly think. And I don't mean meditate in the yogi way, but or like a Buddhist, but I mean, just sit quietly and really get to that still place and think about the things that are happening. They don't want you to recognize tyranny. They want to laugh. I mean, could you believe that? Laughing at Jesse Ventura and saying there's no search that's unreasonable, and lying and saying that they only pat you down if you don't go through the scanners. I mean, and laughing at him. I mean, it was purely demonic.
Well, I agree with you, and the more I have learned, the less I really watch TV, because it's totally a mind control device, and you see it in everything from the local news broadcasting to the TV actual shows. It's written into the shows, and these little people on the View and all these other programs we're talking about, they're basically cheerleaders. The only thing they're missing is their pom-poms with the corporate logos on them.
That's it, brother. Good to hear from you, Jim. We got a guest coming up for one segment, then I'll continue with calls and we'll get into this huge birth certificate development, the biggest yet. It's up at prisonplanet.com right now. We're going to continue breaking down the State of the Union straight ahead. Stay with us. I'm going to play that View clip again, though, when we come back.
Transmitting worldwide, it's Alex Jones.
We are going to continue with your phone calls after our guest leaves us here in about 18 minutes from now. And then I'm going to, next hour, get into the incredible cherry on top. We're now 99.9% assured that Obama was not born in the state of Hawaii like he claimed. And we now have this from an interview the governor gave, and then an interview he gave to another well-known reporter who's known him for decades, that, yeah, he can't find anything. Not just the certificate, nothing. So that's coming up in the next hour. And what is the constitutional ramifications of this? Or is this some stunt where the governor's claiming all this and they're going to produce it later? It's some type of political score to make all of the anti-Obama stuff going on rest on this birth certificate instead of the gun grabbing, the open borders, the carbon taxes, the government health care, the overspending. Is this some type of scam? I don't know. But they're sure trying to act like he's guilty of lying about where he was born. And we've got his wife obviously saying that he goes back to his homeland where he was born in Kenya. We've got his grandmother saying it. I mean, this is a big deal. This is a big, big, big deal. And we're going to be covering that coming up in the next hour after we take some more of your calls. But I wanted to get to this subject before we talk to Lloyd Chapman, the founder of American Small Business League, to get his take on the State of the Union briefly last night, ASBL.com. We played The View attacking Jesse Ventura earlier in the last hour, and there's a statement in there by one of the women. I don't know, what's the blonde's name? I don't watch the show. What's the blonde's name? None of us know. I'm kind of proud that our office, no one knows her name. But she says, well, you don't you have to go through the pat down, which includes hands going in the pants sometimes or squeezing genitals, if you go through the scanner. That's not true. They do scanner and pat down, scanner or only pat down. They admit they want to phase it all in. I've witnessed this myself, and Rob Dew and Aaron Dyke shot video of this. So I'm going to play that brief clip from The View and then show you our video of people coming out of the scanners and then having the rape downs done. Then she goes on to imply that it's crazy to be able to sue the government. Oh, I guess they're just unaccountable. They're like God on Mount Olympus. They can do whatever they want. Now, I'm going to show you some video. If you're a radio listener, obviously this will be archived later at prisonplanet.tv, and then on YouTube you'll be able to watch it. But I'm going to play some video in the background of people coming out of the scanners, and after they go through the scanners, they are then brought over and they are patted down. So they do whole variants of this. Their threat is, if you don't do the scanners, we're going to do the pat down. But there she is now directing people over to be further searched. The guy's waiting. You just saw the guy in the shirt be sent through. He's now waiting to be patted down. And now there is the TSA worker beginning the pat down on him. We got a whole bunch of this footage. And then here comes another person through the scanner, now being sent over to secondary screening. And there it is, see him being patted down. There you go, okay? And they plan to phase it in everywhere, and the TSA has said they plan to make it mandatory for everyone. Chicago Tribune 6 months ago, and we have the El Paso Times, after we were told by listeners, a pilot, that everyone in El Paso is being forced through them last year, everyone, through the scanners. Then we searched it and found the El Paso Times reporting on it. So there you go, View. And I could go through every second of that minute-and-a-half clip. Everything they say is a fraud, including two of the women sitting there falling over each other in the script to say, there is no such thing as an unreasonable search. And this isn't an unreasonable search. There's no such thing as one. You can go watch the video in the archive, what we played earlier. I don't even know these women's name except for the Barbara Walters. Okay, shifting gears now back into the State of the Union. Here's their statement on it. Obama State of the Union addresses historic. Obama State of the Union addresses highlights rhetoric without action. And joining us to cover it is Mr. Lloyd Chapman, founder of American Small Business League, with hundreds of thousands of members out there defending American small business. Sir, give us your take on the State of the Union.
Oh, it was Obama sitting there reading a speech that was written for him, reading off a teleprompter, as you could tell. That's when you see him looking left and right. He's reading off the teleprompter. He practiced it, earlier that day, and he's just like an actor reading his lines in a movie. And it's what I call Washington political theater. Them standing up and applauding the whole thing. It's choreographed, and it's just those aren't his words. Those are words that someone wrote for him, and those aren't his thoughts or his feelings. That's just what the speech writing people thought, would improve his ratings. And quite frankly, I don't believe a thing that Obama says, to tell you the truth. He's just lied so many times. And quite frankly, remember, I endorsed him. I campaigned for him. He put my endorsement on the front page of his website. So he's broken, as far as I know, every single campaign promise that he made. So really nothing that he says really has much credibility with me. And he also, I have to say, just lied, talking about the economy's doing better. Here's some statistics that we dug up here.
In fact, here's a quote. We broke the back of the recession. Really,
yeah.
every real indicator is it's getting deeper, but he says it's over in June of 2009.
I'll tell you something. Think about that. Think about the President of the United States, who's supposed to be the leader of our nation, going on national television and telling American people we broke the back of the recession. The truth is that the Labor Department says U6 unemployment is 16.7%. That doesn't include 20% of the population that's self-employed. Unemployment is over 20%. Home prices are projected to drop another 7.1%. They're down 34% overall. A noted economist, David Levy, is saying that we're almost, or it's highly likely, another recession is going to happen in 2011. Goldman Sachs leaked something leaked out of Goldman Sachs that they see unemployment going up in 2011, and the economy's doing terrible. And of course, the thing that really just drives me up a wall is corporate profits are up. So corporate profits are up. Home prices are plunging. Unemployment's going up. That just kind of shows you where the focus is in Washington. And again, when I talk to people about politics and they sit there and they tell me how unhappy they are, I always say the same thing. It's much worse than you think it is.
Well, that's what Obama's job and the Republican leadership's jobs are, is to just soft soap people, con them, string them along. The mega banks are making the biggest profits in their history. As the economy implodes, they're able to consolidate the industry, the media, the smaller businesses and corporations. They're laying more regulations, more state and local taxes in, which the mega corporations are on record lobbying for. The Food Safety Act, written by Big Agri to shut down their competition when they're the ones that are responsible for almost all of the agriculture disasters. I mean, the business is going very, very well, and Obama's doing a fabulous job, according to the globalist. I mean, that's like what George Soros said last year. He said, "I'm having a great crisis. I love this." I mean, they love the food riots and the people going hungry and the homeless numbers and the record foreclosures on houses, because they are feeding on things through this predatory system. And let's go over some of the broken campaign promises, because that's really what this was just another campaign speech pushing more hope and change under other names. They just went to the thesaurus and changed, from hope and change to other variants of that. And the message was, come together and do what we tell you, and things are going to get better. America's great, and if you don't agree with our policies, you don't think America's great. I mean, this was literally like a pep rally for 2-year-olds.
Absolutely. The truth is that, the big corporations that backed Obama's campaign are making record profits while the American people are on their knees, trying to, pay their rent and their mortgages and feed their families. You can't believe anything that Obama says. Obama said for 2 years, virtually every single day during the campaign, if he was elected president, he would enact a windfall profit tax on the oil and gas industry to try to, keep the price of, gas regulated. And he never did that. But he said that he would end the diversion of federal small business contracts to Fortune 500 firms. He didn't do that. Anything that had to do with the middle class and the American people.
In fact, he's trying to have that secret blacklist that you talked about a few months ago with us, where they don't even have to let companies know if their bid was even looked at.
Absolutely. In fact, he also said he'd have the most transparent administration in history. Since the last time I talked to you, I filed a case with the Supreme Court. And here's what I want. I want the phone records of a guy named Mike Stamler at the Small Business Administration. I just want to see his phone records. I've gotten the phone records of other similar people, but I've got to go to the Supreme Court now and spend tons of money, because I think this guy is hiding information that shows rampant fraud and abuse in federal small business contracting programs. I like to tell people, when you watch Obama talking, realize that every day that he's been president, $2 billion in federal contracts that by law should be going to small businesses, the middle class, have been diverted to Fortune 500 firms and some of the biggest companies in the world in Europe and Asia. So I think it's something like, I think it's about $1 million to $2 million a minute in federal small business funds. Now, these are funds that by law are supposed to go to small businesses, are being diverted to some of the biggest companies in the world.
And now they want to make it a secret that small businesses are to be blackballed and not even looked at, when by law it's supposed to be going to the small businesses. But, I mean, here's something we know is going on that's 100% proven. We know he's given out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of waivers to his political contributors. I mean, one of the biggest, of course, being McDonald's, that they don't have to get insurance, but the small businesses do. That's an unfair trade advantage. That is big city Chicago mafia, where their buddies get to operate, but your business basically gets shut down. Right there, we know they're engaged in classical political favors. Absolutely. The thing that is so sad to me is
You know, I used to be very patriotic and was very proud of America, and after suing the government for 20 years, I've come to understand that our government is just completely, totally corrupt from one end to the other. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. Those people are elected to Congress on contributions from large corporations. Large corporations own that town. Here's a fascinating thing. Watch the Sunday news programs and watch who's running all the ads. It's Lockheed, Boeing, Northrop, big corporations. Why is Lockheed and Boeing running ads on television? What do they have that people can buy? So these guys...
Well, we know they're actually federalizing our police, putting security blimps up, drones, robots to fight the non-existent bombs that are supposedly going to be blowing up everywhere. The military-industrial complex is eating what's left of America.
You got it. You got it. The military-industrial complex that Eisenhower warned us about over 50 years ago. Alex, here's a couple of my ideas to save the economy. I think we should shut down those wars in Iraq and Afghanistan because we can't afford it. You know, we can keep those people out of our country. We can protect ourselves, you know, in other ways. We can't afford it. Did you know that ExxonMobil and GE paid no federal income tax last year? Zero, not a dime.
Google pays 2.4.
Yeah. So we need to get these corporations paying their fair share of taxes. And to me, you know, if you want to create jobs, it's real simple. Ask a 6-year-old kid this question 2 years ago. The truth is, from the U.S. Census Bureau, small businesses create over 95% of all net new jobs.
And the government by law is supposed to give contracts to them, right, so at least some of our tax money comes back, but not anymore.
Nope. So when you look at where the economic stimulus funds have gone, small businesses have gotten a handful of pennies, while Goldman Sachs and AIG and those guys have gotten hundreds of billions. But think of the logic of this. It's real simple. Small businesses create 95% of all net new jobs. You can't have the economy recover without getting unemployment down. And Obama has given small businesses virtually none of the stimulus funds. And every day that he's been that he was in office, he's given the federal funds that are supposed to go to small businesses to large corporations. And it's just not me. There's been, I think, 20 investigations. The SBA Inspector General in Report 515 said that diversion of these federal funds to large corporations was one of the largest challenges facing our country today. But it's just so irritating to see him get up on television and just lie to the American people and tell them that things are getting better. Things are getting worse. So here's what people can plan on. Housing prices are going to go down. Unemployment's going to go up. Cities are going to start to go bankrupt. And things are not getting better. And my guess is as the middle class suffers more and more and more, I'll bet you that Goldman Sachs and these large financial institutions on Wall Street will make more and more profits.
Well, they are. They've designed the whole thing. Lloyd Chapman, American Small Business League founder and head. And small businesses need to band together, join your organization, get involved, speak out against this basic fraud that's going on. And Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, they've all made record profits. They've engineered this. They've done this to third world countries over and over again. And it was Obama's job to sell fake hope and change. The Republicans are involved in this scam as well. And that's why they're so desperate now. They're saying, yeah, let's work together. Americans, don't be angry. Sit down and shut up. It shows how weak they are and how scared they are of the American people. Folks were upset by Bush. They voted for Obama. Now they know Obama's bad. A Republican goes in and doesn't immediately deliver. The real awakening is going to happen there. Everything we've seen so far is just a prelude. That's why they're trying to come in with an authoritarian police state to backstop this, because they know we're waking up. I mean, we are entering incredible times. In closing, Lloyd, do you agree with that statement?
Absolutely. We're in big, big trouble. Things are going to get very, very bad, and people need to do something. So people out there listening, do something. Call your congressman, do something. You know, go by their office, complain, call the White House, but do something. Think about what you can do and do something. Don't just sit around and yell at the television. Do something.
Yeah, at least talk to neighbors and get the buzz expanding so people know they're not alone. That's why we have this V for Victory campaign. You know, just so people understand, there's a solidarity across political spectrum, not left or right, against what's going on. Lloyd Chapman, great talking to you. Look forward to speaking to you in the near future. But to sum it up, just another fraudulent campaign speech last night?
Absolutely. More lies from a liar.
All right, and that's from a former Obama supporter. All right, Lloyd, thank you so much. We'll be right back with your phone calls. And then later in the next hour, I am getting into the birth certificate, the biggest development ever. Stay with us. Okay, let's start going to some of your phone calls here. Let's talk to Matt in Florida. Thanks for holding, Matt. You're on the air.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, nice to talk to you today. I wanted to make three real quick points. Number one, I'd like to thank Jesse Ventura because he's doing something that a lot of people in his celebrity statue should be doing. Like when you heard like Kim Kardashian complaining about the TSA, but yet she's not filing a suit. So he's actually got the courage to stand up to these people.
Well, let me just interrupt because you made me think of something important. You've got all these people on TV and radio demonizing him, saying he wants attention, and this isn't sexual assault, even though the police on record say it is, and we've had district attorneys on. I know Ventura well. He wants to retire. He wants to play golf and surf. You know, he's a big guy. He's had a rough life. He just wants to spend time with his wife and children when they visit. And he's told me he didn't want to do the conspiracy show, but he wanted to get the word out about what's happening. He told me that 3 years ago he was just going to retire, but that so much has happened, he's being sucked back into it. He doesn't want to do this. We've had long discussions. He's doing it because he really does care. I don't agree with every political view Ventura has, but he's a real guy, and that is so rare nowadays, and he's a warrior, and I admire Jesse Ventura. Go ahead.
I just want to make two real quick points. I want to give you a piece of, intel I found on YouTube. Please have one of your researchers or yourself YouTube search the bankruptcy scam of 1933. This is a great video that breaks down how the federal government went into bankruptcy officially in 1933. It's a great piece of intel. They break it all down. It's like it's an 11-part series.
Yeah, that's the Emergency Powers Act, and they confiscated the gold, and it all happened, and they set up the state police that are really federal, and that's when the takeover really happened to a great extent. 1913, the banks take over, the banking system, the financial system from Congress, and then by 1933, they bring us into emergency receivership to the Bank of England, to the Federal Reserve. Absolutely right. Appreciate your call. Great points, Matt. Martina, Rick, Mega Newsreader, Mike, Leo, Ridge Runner. We'll get to all of you. Then, I'm getting into Obama and the biggest development yet with his birth certificate. Stay with us. We're now into the third hour. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to try to go quickly through some more of your calls because I want to get into the big developments on Obama's birth certificate. This is really getting scary with new statements by the governor out in Hawaii, who's one of his buddies. So that is coming up. But right now we're taking your calls, dealing with your view on the state of the disunion, the globalist takeover last night. Let's talk to Martina in Iowa. You're on the air.
Hello?
Hello, welcome.
Hi. I just wanted to say that a bunch of us on Facebook, the terrorists, were criticizing our dictator as he spoke last night. And I found one thing out of his speech, the fact that we're still fighting Al-Qaeda and that we need to be afraid of them. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And then I see an article that says Obama wants to jail Americans with new law from the European Union Times, and it talks about...
Yeah, that's not a real website, ma'am. I appreciate your call. Let's go ahead and talk to Rick in Florida. Rick, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Alex. I called to ask a couple of questions about Jesse Ventura's conspiracy theory television show.
Sure, go ahead.
Are there any plans that you know of for a third season?
That's up in the air right now. Ventura is not going to fly commercial. That's why he's got his lawsuit going. And quite frankly, I just told you earlier, if you were listening, he didn't particularly want to do either one of the seasons. He did it because he wanted to, expose the globalist. But it's up in the air. They don't know if there's going to be a third season right now, especially after the censorship of the show by Homeland Security and Congressman Cohen.
That's what I wanted to ask you about, really, is what can you tell us about how that all went down? The censorship of the FEMA internment, the police state episode?
Well, I've talked a lot about it. And the problem is I was told internally about it about a month before it broke. That happened back in early November. And, obviously when people tell you stuff in confidence, they're like, we're waiting to see what's going to happen. Please don't tell all of this yet. And then since then, they've still asked me not to get into all of it, but there's been harassment, break-ins, people's trash being dug through by men in suits, Homeland Security, ADL, visits at Time Warner, putting pressure on True TV. Congressman Cohen reportedly was saying, just take it off the air and I won't go crazy. And then now they took it off the air, and you see him running around on CNN when he's not calling Republicans Nazis, attacking Ventura and saying his show could cause a new Oklahoma City. I mean, so the reason I'm even able to talk about it, because once you're told something in confidence, you don't break that confidence. As a journalist, when I wear that hat, is because Cohen is running around everywhere all over the place, demonizing the First Amendment. So there you have it. I mean, that's what's going on.
Right. One last question. Any plans to release either of the first 2 seasons on DVD?
I have told them that would be a great idea, and obviously True TV is not stupid. They know it was a hit show. They guaranteed on DVD it would be a big seller, but you notice they moved it from Wednesday, when it was a #1 show on their network, to a Friday at night, which is the dead zone, and then it still did incredibly well. And so there's upper management, obviously strangling it, so I wouldn't hold your breath for a 3rd season.
Thanks, Alex.
You bet. That's the information on that. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that went on, and I've been asked not to talk about it. Kind of like when I knew Mark Cuban had gotten White House phone calls threatening him to not put out Loose Change Final Cut in theaters, and I couldn't talk about it. I just said he'd been threatened. Pretty much broke confidence to even say that. I just can't help it. But I didn't give out all the information. Then it came out in the New York Times, the emails on top of phone calls, with the White House saying, we're going to get you for putting that movie out. And so they indicted him. Of course, it was all a fraud, so he beat it. I think they've re-indicted him now. So, there you go. I mean, we're not... This is where Eagles dare tread, folks. This isn't the game right here, what we're doing. Okay, we're taking some more of your phone calls right now. Then I'm going to get into the big birth certificate news, the huge developments on that front with Barack Hussein Obama, real name Barry Soetoro. Mega newsreader in California, you're on the air. Thank you for holding.
Alex Jones, good afternoon.
Good to have you here with us.
Say hi, Alex. Hi.
Getting support from the Young Info Warriors.
Awesome.
Quick, I'm a Prison Planet TV member. Kudos to Jesse Ventura. V for victory, and I want to talk briefly about Barry Soetoro's speech last night.
Okay.
As a father of 2 girls, and Barack Obama also being a father of 2 girls, it makes me sick to my stomach that this guy, and I know he's a human, somewhere inside he's got to be a human, for him to joke about the TSA. What if his daughters went through the same experience that TSA just lost that court settlement over? What if these women on The View had to have a cavity search? How funny would it be for them? It just makes me sick. It's like... Well,
they said there's no search that's too invasive on the show.
Lie. That's a lie. They're just incrementally...
Well, you notice that's the tactic. Obama made it a joke. The View made it a joke. I heard local radio make it a joke. That's the America jellyfish response that we're supposed to have to tyranny, is to make it a joke when somebody valiantly sues Homeland Security, and then Barbara Walters marveling, and the other women marveling that someone, you can sue them? How dare him? They're our kings.
The smartest people I know, the people around me who go to college, who are nurses, who are doctors, have all been indoctrinated with this laughter response. You can show them facts, you can show them government documents, and instead of them wrapping their head around how evil this is, they just laugh, and it makes me sick to my stomach.
Well, they're under a form of hypnosis. They're under a form of mind control. I wouldn't laugh at them. They're victims. But they have gibbering delight in the face of a threat. It's a super coward response. A regular low-level coward knows they're a coward and gets scared and just shuts up because, ooh, that's scary. But real cowards, hardcore cowards, George Orwell wrote about this, engage in crime, stop, or doublethink. They decide the threat's a joke and tell themselves it's no big deal with cognitive dissonance. And then it's also kind of an elitist attitude that if they can laugh about it, it somehow gives them power. Good to hear from you. Leo and Mass, you're on the air. Hey, who's that guy here in the background on the radio? Leo. He's going to come there in a minute.
Hi, hello?
Hey, Leo, how you doing, buddy?
Okay. Yeah, so...
Listen, I want to be able to hear you, so turn your radio off.
Yeah, I'm gone. In the View, the game they're playing... Hello?
Yes, sir.
You see, I finally figured out what's going on. Rush Limbaugh, Savage, Hasselbeck, they're all part of the same game. And some of us don't really see it. I see Limbaugh as the perfect liberal's caricature of what a conservative is. He gets national vision. Savage, he's a hateful against the Muslims, so he gets to go on. Hasselbeck, she is an idiot George Bush supporter who knows how to play ball, and so she stays. You see the game going on here?
Oh, I see it, yeah.
But I think the whole thing is that the people at large don't see this whole game. Plus, I think the really important thing is that at times we tend to pin the tail on only one donkey, but I see the donkey as being three hydra-headed donkeys, one of which being the Jesuit Vatican, and the other being the City of London and the Jewish Zionists in Israel. So, we have to see the donkey as having three heads, is what I'm saying.
That's a scary donkey. I appreciate your call, Leo. Ridge Runner in Ohio. Then I'm getting into the big development on the birth certificate issue. We're going to play that audio clip coming up. Go ahead. You're on the air, Ridge Runner.
Yeah, Alex is doing a great job. I saw the Puppet in Chief last night, and I would just say like what Gandhi said. First, they ignore you, then they ridicule you, then you resist them, fight them, and then you win. And you're doing a great job fighting them, and they're using ridicule to basically hypnotize everyone and make it, hopefully, go away. But Jesse Ventura's act of suing them and Bob Barr coming up with it is a great thing.
That's right. They're getting scared right now, Ridge Runner, and so they're trying every trick in the book. They're attacking, they're ignoring, they're ridiculing. They're basically doing it all at the same time, but you see that all the polls show no one is buying it. There's a small brain-dead group out there across the political spectrum, but it's never been, the jellyfish, the spineless ones that change things. It was 5% that started and won the Revolutionary War. Really, 3% started it, 5% won it. We're in an info war, and if we can reach out to military, police, bureaucrats, and others, they're going to see they don't have a stake in the New World Order. They're going to see it's bad. They're going to know how evil it is, and they can just passively support us by getting info out, by speaking up a little bit, by educating others. All of us together, none of us have to save the world by ourselves. It's all of us just doing a little bit every day and signifying and speaking up and not going along with this and spreading the word about good alternative media sources. Final point.
Yeah, just an observation, connecting some dots. You had your first speaker there talking about the towers. Shapiro made the point about absent, an OKC, Oklahoma City, and a 9/11, Obama's, administration would be kaput. And it just seems so convenient. Here you have Napolitano. Lindsey Williams talked about that friend of his and going to Washington, offered a job, and then she didn't take it. And then Napolitano said something's going to happen. I can't tell you what it is. And then this stuff happens in her state. It's, there's mind control. He was obsessed with it, this Tucson guy. And I don't know, connecting some of these dots.
No. In fact, you just reminded me. I heard chatter on this show, other shows, about something's going to happen in Arizona. Remember that in the months before? And Lindsey Williams? Wow, I'd forgotten about that. I appreciate your call. It's crazy. Okay, here's really the biggest development yet that I've seen in the whole soap opera that is Barry Soetoro, a.k.a. Barack Obama's birth certificate. And just recapping, we know that he gave up his U.S. citizenship to become an Indonesian citizen, and his name's Barry Soetoro. That's not debated. We know his grandmother in Kenya claims he was born there. We know that they never released the real birth certificate but claimed that they had. Now they admit, okay, there's an original blueprint that has the footprints and the signature, and the governor, the incoming governor, a month ago said, Abercrombie in Hawaii said, I'm going to release it. Then about 8 days ago, last Tuesday, the Honolulu Advertiser had an interview with him and just a footnote about, hey, what about the birth certificate? And he said, well, I've been looking and I can't find it, and I know that's going to become a big campaign issue, and I'm worried about it. And we covered that, and Jerome Corsi covered it, and Drudge covered it, and it got really big. Now, a very well-known reporter, I've heard this guy for years, Mike Evans. He does kind of straight, non-gossip, Hollywood and TV reporting. Mike Evans in Hawaii, friends for many years with the governor, who was a congressman. He's known him since he was, quote, a taxi cab driver. We're going to play that. I mean, you'll just hear it from him. But to say, yeah, I talked to the governor, my good friend, and he said they can find no records. They can find nothing. Not just the birth certificate, nothing. Obama has said it's 2 different hospitals. They don't know which one it is. I mean, this is really getting suspicious. And even the receipt of the birth certificate, a lot of experts looked at it and said it was fake. So this is a big constitutional crisis, and it's now time for congressional hearings on this. Let's go ahead and play part of this radio clip on KQRS-FM with them talking to the reporter who talked to Neil Abercrombie. And again, the reporter is Mike Evans, the Hollywood reporter. Here it is.
Next item, no show business, but I have a personal interest, so I thought I'd share it with you. Former U.S. Congressman from Hawaii, Neil Abercrombie, has been a friend of mine for decades. In fact, when I first met Neil, he was driving a cab in Honolulu. Well, Neil and I spent a lot of time together in Washington, D.C. during Obama's inauguration. Neil told me then that he was going to run for governor of Hawaii. He had enough of being a U.S. congressman. He also told me that his stories, and he told me many times after Barack became famous, that when he was in college, going to the University of Hawaii, he was a friend of Barack Obama's dad. And he remembers Barack Obama as a little kid. He used to call him Barry. In fact, I did a TV interview with Abercrombie at C-SPAN the day after the inauguration, and we had to stop twice because he referred to the president as Barry, which after he did, he said, I can't do, I got to call him the Mr. President. Well, Neil promised me that when he became governor, he was going to cut through all the red tape. He was going to get Obama's birth certificate once and for all and end the stupid controversy that he was not born in the United States. Yesterday, talking to Neil's office, Neil says that he searched everywhere using his power as governor at the Kapiolani Women's and Children's Hospital and Queens Hospital, the only places kids were born in Hawaii back when Barack was born. There is no Barack Obama birth certificate in Hawaii.
Really?
Absolutely no proof at all that he was born in Hawaii.
Wow.
Now, he went out, he loves Obama. I mean, he purposely did this to get rid of that question. Now, got some egg in the face. I mean, now he admits publicly that there is no birth certificate.
Honestly. Well, and Mike, the addendum to that is there's this story of there was a birth announcement, but it's been explained his grandparents could have called the newspaper and said, hey, our grandchild was born, and he didn't have to be born in Hawaii for that. So it's raising the issue again.
Absolutely.
After it seemed to be put to bed.
And I asked him, I go, well, when do you remember Barack? When your first memory? And he goes, I remember him playing like in a T-ball league. And I go, like, well, how old? He was like 5 or 6, something like that. I go, what about before that? He goes, I don't really remember him much before that, which I thought was very odd.
Oh.
Really? Anyway.
Okay, we're going to go to break, and it goes on. The full clip's up at Infowars.com, and the article, Abercrombie admits failure to discover Obama's birth certificate. This really is a big deal. I remember Webster Tarpley, who I respect, and Phil Berg, who I respect, and many others saying the evidence is he wasn't born in the U.S. I remember that early in the campaign having him on and saying on air, I don't know where I stand. In fact, I got heat from listeners because I didn't devote just, shows every week to it. I probably did, 15 interviews or something in that year leading up. I had investigators on. I said, I don't know, would the globalists be this arrogant as to run somebody who they know was born in Kenya? But now the clip of his wife repeatedly saying, we went back to his homeland where he was born, Kenya. The fact that his name is Barry Soetoro, that everybody knew him as Barry, that they've sealed his college and high school and all his other records, but the ones we get, a Muslim in Indonesia, in Muslim schools, now in the news, demanding to go to Muslim prayers, which freaked his mom out. I'm not here to attack Muslims either. It's just he's lying about this. There's another weird fake name he had. We don't know who this guy is. So it's 100% he gave up his citizenship. That's 100%. I'm telling you, it's 99% now that, we know they're covering up. We know they lied and said the official birth certificate had been released 3 years ago and a year ago and a month ago, and they never have. And now we've seen Hardball with Slimeball Matthews and Mr. Maddow and others have to come out and admit that, okay, why didn't he just release the actual original with the feet prints like I've got and you've got? You got to have that to be in the state police. To join any agency that, quote, has, security clearances. What's going on here? And now you've got this very respected reporter. I mean, I remember listening to this guy when I was a kid. Mike Evans knows Obama, knows the governor, really good friends with the governor, saying, yeah, I talked to him. This is a guy who's interviewed the governor on television. I mean, this is a big reporter, TV, radio, you name it, saying, yeah, I've known him since he was a cab driver, and he told me he's pretty freaked out about it. He can find nothing. The interview goes on, too. We just played part of it, but it's posted in a story at prisonplanet.com. And normally, when I do a Google bomb to make it the #1 search term, and you guys almost never fail. You're awesome. We did 3 in a row last week, as you know. #1 search, #2, and #3. Normally, I would do this in the first hour because we have more success when we do that, but we're doing it in the third hour today. Please write this search term down. It's from the article, Abercrombie Admits Failure to Discover Obama Birth Certificate, the top story at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com by Paul Joseph Watson. It boils down the history of it, the background. In fact, I'm going to call Watson. I want him to add some of the other evidence. Mrs. Obama, Mrs. Soetoro, saying he was, visited his homeland of Kenya. I want to add some background, too, to this. I mean, it's a good article giving you a full spectrum, but I want to beef this up a little bit, too, so people get an even clearer image of what's going on. Also, the issue of his name being Barry Soetoro and the citizenship issue right there. But great article by Paul Watson he churned out today. Abercrombie admits failure to discover Obama birth certificate. We're going to have the #1 search term. Let's do it together right now. Nothing can stop you, ladies and gentlemen. V for victory against the globalist. R for resistance. Abercrombie admits failure. That's the search term. Abercrombie. Abercrombie admits failure. Abercrombie. 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 It's 3 words. Abercrombie admits failure. Abercrombie admits failure. That's actually the Infowars.com version headline. Abercrombie admits failure. And then let's put up the Prison Planet. I'm glad you guys put that up. I didn't know there was 2 different headlines. We want to go with a second key search term, Abercrombie birth certificate. Second search term, Abercrombie birth certificate. Enter those 3 search terms into Google over and over and over again. Abercrombie birth certificate. Abercrombie birth certificate. Put that into Google as your second search, but the #1 search, Abercrombie admits failure. Abercrombie admits failure. Enter that, put it in Google, enter it in over and over and over again. Let's drive these searches to #1 and #2. You'll choose whether Abercrombie admits failure or the other variant that I'm going with, Abercrombie birth certificate. That way it'll lead them directly to this article and get an even bigger buzz. This could be explosive. It is up to you. Abercrombie birth certificate or Abercrombie admits failure. 2 different search terms. Get them in there. Let's do it together. Also, we're trying to get a grassroots movement going. If Ron Paul has said if he sees even more support, he's probably going to run for president. Says he's looking at it. We've come out with a T-shirt that's Draft Ron Paul 2012. It's a limited run. It will be limited time available. And it's available at Infowars.com. And, of course, then the paltry sum for it supports this transmission and our whole operation here. We couldn't do it without you. The online video bookstore, Patriot Apparel Store, Infowars.com. And you'll meet like-minded people, no doubt, wearing a Ron Paul shirt. I think it's the most good-looking Ron Paul shirt out there. Very well done by Janae Meadows, one of our great graphics people. So, again, Ron Paul, Draft Ron Paul 2012, available at Infowars.com or by calling us toll-free. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now I want to get into the most important part of today's broadcast. Don't forget, we're trying to make it the key search term. Abercrombie admits failure, and Abercrombie birth certificate, two different Google search terms. Please, let's make those number 1 and number 2 search terms. Abercrombie admits failure. That'll lead him to the articles about him unable to find the birth certificate. It isn't there. Everybody else's in Hawaii is, but not Obama's. No record, no nothing. And this is now confirming the news interview he did 8 days ago with the Honolulu Advertiser, the governor. This is one of his good friends, well-known reporter. And Abercrombie birth certificate that will also lead people to our articles breaking down the full spectrum of what is going on. And you're welcome with your blog or news site to write your own article about it or post ours, especially if you are linked on Google News, because they've delisted us because of our Google bombs. They don't like it. No, by the way, I saw it in the news last night. Headline, secret NSA relationship with Google comes out. It is the NSA. Now, here's the big stuff we're going to be covering now for the rest of this hour and going a bit into overdrive today. Senate leaders' eye option of state bankruptcy. And we talked about this years ago. The IMF and World Bank, when they come into a country, they bankrupt the regions and cities first so they can buy off those politicians very cheap. Then they have the central government come in receivership and take the nation over, and then it's beholden to the international banking cartel. This is the globalist receivership economic domination model. Here's Reuters now. Senate leaders' eye option of state bankruptcy. Senate Republican leaders said on Tuesday they were considering introducing legislation to allow financially stressed U.S. states to declare bankruptcy and then to be, quote, bailed out by the federal government. That means the taxpayers. So this is the full federalization / internationalization. Continuing. Bank of England chief Mervyn King, standard of living to plunge at fastest rate since 1920s. That's globalism. That's what the New World Order is here to deliver to you. What else are the bankers at Davos this week talking about what a great crisis they're having and how great the New World Order is? Ted Turner and people like George Soros. So I'm having a great crisis. They're making record profits. World needs 100 trillion more credit, says World Economic Forum. And, of course, then they can leverage it at least 10 times through fractional reserve banking. That's 1,000 trillion or 1 quadrillion. But that's to them that they then loan to you. You pay for it in taxes, and then they loan it back to your government or to people with 30% interest rate on their credit cards. So there you go. Now, I literally, without looking, see scores of these articles every day. I know you do. But remember 2 years ago, Steve Schenck of eFoods Direct, because he's the biggest storable foods maker in the country. It's all right here in the U.S. And he said, you won't believe how prices are already going up. But the media for wholesalers was lying about that, saying, oh, there's no inflation. Then a year ago, he said, get ready, it's really about to go up. Then 6 months ago, he said, I got to go up on prices for the first time in a decade. McDonald's is announcing massive price increases of their adulterated, junk food. World food prices jumped to record on sugar and oil seeds. And this is out of Bloomberg today. Here's another one. Again, McDonald's announcing they're going to have to go up in their food prices. Obama tells us the world economic rules have changed. Basically, they're our new boss. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.